enforcement. You can't walk down the street of these cities nowadays without being shot or mugged or beat up or pushed into a subway train. We will take over the horribly run capital of our nation in Washington, D.C., and clean it up, renovate it, rebuild it. It'll be a capital like no other. Right now, you walk down the streets of the capital. Last night, 3 people shot. Every day, people are shot. Our capital is a disgrace. I was there for one of these fake trials the other day, a couple of weeks ago, and I'm driving down a major thoroughfare. Let's not even mention it. And there was so much garbage that we're literally driving over cartons and boxes and cans and beer. I say, what a disgrace. The median in between lanes, the median was all falling down, that crappy steel median that they use in this country for some reason. Somebody does a very good job with getting that contract. Because have you ever seen these things? You put them up and the sun bends it. They look like hell after like 2 weeks. What kind of crap is that? But they're all over the place. And they all know what I'm talking about, too. Somebody did a great job of selling, whoever the hell it is. They're rich as hell. But we're going to straighten out our cities. We're going to straighten out our cities, and we're going to take over the capital of the United States, and we're going to run it in the federal government. It's going to be run properly and safely. Nobody's going to get shot. And if they do, those people are in big trouble that did it. It'll become again the most beautiful capital and the safest capital anywhere in the world. No, but can you imagine you're a foreign dignity and you're coming into the United States and you're driving over garbage and you see the medians falling and you see asphalt that has potholes all over the place. What a scene. And I'm telling you, 4 years ago when I was here, I used to go crazy with that. Get that street clean. It wasn't my job. But, you have a mayor, right? But you have a mayor. And they're supposed to do it, but we're going to take it over, we're going to federalize it, and we're going to run it in the federal government. It's going to be run properly, really properly and safely. On day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto our children to destroy their lives. And I will not give 1 penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or a mask mandate. And it's hard to believe that we have to even say this. It's so ridiculous. I will keep men out of women's sports, totally done. And as I did for 4 years, perfectly, I will fully uphold our great Second Amendment. We have no choice. And I will never allow the creation of a central bank digital currency. Do you know what that means? It's a big deal. We will protect innocent life and we will restore free speech again in our country. I will secure our elections, and as I said, our goal will be one-day voting with paper ballots and voter ID. But until then, Republicans must win. We have to win. You have to get out and vote on Tuesday. If you took the 10 worst presidents in the history of the United States and added them up, they would not have done near the destruction to our country as Joe Biden and the Biden administration. So if you look at what they've done on our border, what they've done to our military, what they've done to everything, look at interest rates. We used to have the lowest interest rates ever. Now we have the highest. Nobody can buy houses. What they've done to this country is incredible, and especially having to do with crime and other such things. The border is one of the great catastrophes, I think, in the world. The border is one of the greatest catastrophes that have ever happened, and embarrassments. And then you go back again to Afghanistan. I defeat ISIS totally. They said you couldn't do it. It would take 4 or 5 years. They did it in 3 months, right? General Raisin Cane, right? Do you ever hear that story? Good general. We have some great generals, I'll tell you. You don't see them on television, though. So if you want to save America, then this Tuesday, January 23rd, you must vote for a man named Trump. Did you ever hear of him? And as I said earlier, the details, and just take it down just in case you want some, but we have to get everybody, nh.donaldjtrump.com. So in conclusion, who the hell wants this to end? I don't want it to end. I had a friend, you know, he wanted to become a politician. He's a very successful guy, one of the most successful people. I don't want to get him embarrassed, and he wants to be a politician. I said, what's the problem? Why don't you do it? Just go ahead, do it. You'd be good. You have a lot of money. You've done that. He said, I have one problem. What? He has stage fright. I said, stage fright. That doesn't sound good. If you have stage fright, I told him, if you have stage fright, this is the wrong business for you. But we feel comfortable together, right? You know? People say, how do you do that? You go up for 2 hours and you talk, and I would say 80% without these crazy things, right? But how do you do that? And I say, there's such love in the room. I really mean this. It's easy, because there's such love in the room. It's like not that hard to do, believe it or not. I don't know. Thank you. It's true. There's so much love. Together, we're taking on some of the most menacing forces and vicious opponents our people have ever seen. We've never seen anything like it. But no matter how hateful and corrupt the communists and criminals we are fighting against may be, you must never forget this nation does not belong to them. This nation belongs to you. This nation belongs to you. This is your home. This is your heritage, and our American liberty is your God-given right. This is your God-given right. From Concord to Conway, from Plymouth to Portsmouth, and from Meredith to Manchester, you inherit the legacy of red-blooded New Hampshire patriots who live by that immortal motto, live free or die. Have you heard of that before? We stand on the shoulders of American heroes who crossed the ocean, settled a continent, tamed the wilderness, laid down the railroads, raised up the greatest skyscrapers in the world, won 2 world wars, defeated fascism and communism, and made America the single greatest nation in the history of the world. Well, thank you very much, South Carolina Governor. Thank you very much. Very popular group of people, I'll tell you. They've done a fantastic job. And again, we're going to be there in 3 weeks. That's why I did that. Don't tell them, but that's why I did that. It's a big, very political state. They have a lot to say about things, and we love them. And we have almost everybody supporting us there, which is quite a tribute when you have somebody running who is the governor. To the people of New Hampshire, all you need to know about Nikki Haley is that every globalist, liberal, a Biden supporter, and never Trumper is on her side, and virtually every single leader, that's not too many people, by the way, in our home state of South Carolina is on our side. We have almost everybody. And I can say that for Texas. I can say that for Michigan. We just had a great poll today for Michigan. We're up 11 points. So hard. The auto workers, they don't want to see cars being built in China. It's very simple. In Texas, we're up by 18 points. Can you believe this? I don't mean on her. I mean on Biden, I'm talking about. Same thing with Michigan. No, we're up almost everywhere, all over the country. We're way up on Biden, and we're going to keep it that way, because I actually think it's going to get worse. I think we've never had more danger in our country than we have right now. We have a serious danger of going into a World War III, and we think the election's going to be close. It's 10 months, a little more than 10 months. That's a long time. These guys can screw things up very, very rapidly. And you see it starting already. You see it starting, this conflict all over the world. Remember, Israel would have never happened. Ukraine would have never happened. You wouldn't have had inflation. China wouldn't be talking about Taiwan. But here are just a few of the toxic positions that make Nikki and Ron DeSanctimonious completely unelectable. Haley said she wants to raise the Social Security retirement age to match life expectancy, which means that she wants it to go up to about 77. Is everybody happy with that? It's not going to happen with us. 10 years before you collect 1 penny of benefits you've worked your entire life. Can't do that to people. DeSantis voted 3 times to raise the retirement age very substantially on Social Security. He voted when he was a congressman. when he was at about 3 until I endorsed him, and then he won because I endorsed him, and then he said, yeah, I'll run against him, why not? 4 years later, I said, that's it. So we hit him hard. They said, don't hit him so hard, sir. He's a Republican. I said, I don't give a damn. Nikki also supported Rhino Paul Ryan's 2011 plan to destroy Medicare, the same plan that led to Democrat ads, the most vicious ads, showing Republicans wheeling Granny off the cliff. Do you remember that one? That was not good politics. They lost that election by a lot. Incredibly, Nikki is defending her planned cuts for Social Security, and she's out there really defending. No, we want to cut, we want to cut. You can't do it. We have a really wealthy nation. We have more liquid gold under our feet. We're going to drill, baby, drill. We're going to make so much money. We don't have to play with things like they're talking about. Like DeSantis, Nikki Haley supports a 23% national sales tax. Think about that. This is death. This is death for a candidate. The world doesn't know that. I thought I'd let you know before the election. Perhaps worst of all, Nikki Haley is backed by the deep state and the military-industrial complex because they know she is a globalist, and really a globalist fool who they can easily manipulate into sending hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine. Think of this. We have sent over $200 billion to Ukraine, and Europe, our European friends, when you combine them, it's about the same size the economy is the United
Red
States.
Sea region,
They've spent barely $20 billion.
carrier-based
So we're at
F-18s.
$200 billion. I think they should make up the difference. Don't you think they should at least equalize? I did that with NATO. We were paying and they weren't. We're defending them and we're paying the bills. And I said, nope, they asked me, does this mean that if Russia attacks us, you will not defend us? I said, are you paid up? Well, let's say we're not, then I'm not defending you. And the money came pouring in. So our borders remain wide open. We had the safest, best borders in history 3 years ago. Now we have the worst borders anywhere in the world. I don't believe there's ever been borders like this. In short, if you want a losing candidate who puts America last, vote for either one of them, Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis. The other day, I think it was NBC, they're interviewing him, a straight interview, but they can't do a straight. NBC is one of the worst, but they can't. But it was sort of straight. But they said, ladies and gentlemen, we're pleased to have this opportunity to talk to Governor Ron DeSantis. And he said, no, it's DeSantis. That's good branding. When you can get it so they can't even get his name right. And that's just the abbreviation of the sanctimonious, right? But if you want a president, and I think he's going to be out pretty quick based on what I'm hearing, based on what I'm looking at. You don't have to hear it. You have to look at things go polls. And she's going to be out pretty quick, too. But if you want a person that puts America first, there's only one person that you can vote for, and that's Donald J. Trump. And you saw that for 4 years. We're the greatest economy in the history of our country. On day one of my new administration, I will seal the border and I will shut down the invasion of millions of people that are coming through into our country. 3 years ago, we had the most secure border in U.S. history. We built 561 miles, far more than I said we were going to be able to build. And this is after fighting Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan, and the Democrats. Sometimes you wonder who was worse. You know what I did? I took it out of the military. I said, listen, this is an invasion. I'm taking it out of the military because with Congress, it's like, unless you're a Democrat, they suck a lot of money out of Republicans that vote wrong. We got to be very, very careful with that. Very, very careful. But I took it right out of the military. We built it, and we built like nobody's ever. You know the wall, the way it looks, right? That's exactly what they wanted. Border Patrol. Brandon Judd, phenomenal person. You take a look at, do you ever hear of Tom Homan? Is he Central Casting? He said, President Trump, both of them, everybody said it, the greatest president in history for the border. We had that thing so good. All Biden had to do is stay on the beach. Just stay on the beach. But he broke it all up. But we built the border wall. We got Mexico to give us 28,000 soldiers free of charge. Thank you very much, Mexico. I love the president. He's a great guy. But he wasn't exactly happy about that. He was not happy about that. Under Biden, the USA has been turned into a dumping ground for the entire world. Now, you know, I see signs flashing back there, and it sort of depends if you want it. It's a Saturday night. Do you want this to be the long version or the short version? Do you want to hear the snake? Because it's very, do you want to hear? All right. Sadly, this is emblematic of what's going on in our country. At the border, this was an old song that I revised a lot for purposes of saving our country, frankly. And it has to do with the border. Think of it as the border. Think of it as the people that we're letting in, because they're coming in from jails and prisons. They're coming in from mental institutions, insane asylums. They're emptying out into the United States. We're like a dumping ground. Terrorists are coming into our country. And I think this is very emblematic of what's happening. Sad. Sad. People love it, but it's sad. But it gives you what is going on. On her way to work one morning, down the path along the lake, a tender-hearted woman saw a poor, half-frozen snake. His pretty-colored skin had been all frosted with the dew. Poor thing, she cried. I'll take you in, and I'll take care of you. Take me in, O tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, cried the vicious snake. She wrapped him up all cozy in a comforter of silk and laid him by her fireside with some honey and some milk. She hurried home from work that night, and soon as she arrived, she found the pretty snake she'd taken in had just survived. Take me in, O tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, cried the vicious snake. She clutched him to her bosom. You're so beautiful, she cried. But if I hadn't brought you in by now, you truly would have died. She stroked his pretty skin again and kissed and held him tight. But instead of saying, thank you, ma'am, the snake gave her a vicious bite. Take me in, O tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. I saved you, cried the woman, and you've bitten me, but why? You know your bite is poisonous, and now I'm going to die. Shut up, silly woman, said the reptile with a grin. You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in. Right? That's what's happening on our border. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. We're taking in people that shouldn't be in our country. This is a problem, and we will be doing a lot of things, but isn't it true? We're bringing them in from mental institutions, prisons. Terrorists are pouring into our country. You know, in 2019, I saw on one of the shows, this was true news. In 2019, they had no terrorists reported at all coming in because we had a anti-terror clause, and it was actually upheld in the United States Supreme Court. We have 3 great new justices, and we have some very good justices on the court. I hope the Republican justices are willing to do things right. You know, a Democrat put in, let's say, by Obama or Biden, they're down and dirty. They'll just say, nope, I'm voting the way that guy wants. A Republican, they want to show that they can't be bought, that the fact that you put them there and made their lives, took them from someplace where they were doing quite well. But you know what? They want to go out of their way to be politically correct. This country has to do things right. They cannot worry about political correctness anymore. They can't do it. They have to do things right. So you have some votes coming up. The Colorado decision where, as you know, although I would say almost unanimous, even radical left, crazy Democrats, you say you can't take the vote away from the people. And in this case, we're leading everywhere. We're leading with Republicans. We're leading with Democrats. We're beating Biden by a lot. And if Biden gets in, you know, they want to substantially expand the Supreme Court, which would be a terrible thing. But
you have to understand, we have to get down to business, or we're not going to have a country left. We need two things in our country, so important. We need two things. We need strong borders, and we need free and fair and honest elections. The other vote they're taking is going to be on immunity for the president. And this isn't just me. This is all presidents. They have to be given immunity. Otherwise, they're going to be unable to act. Anything they do, if it goes wrong, even if it goes right, the opposing party, and you see that now, where you have these people, they're crazy. They're absolute. The opposing party will indict them for anything they do. So a president has to be given immunity. And this has nothing to do with me. This has to do with every single president. As an example, when Biden gets out, I mean, has that guy got a list you could go after? But you have to give a president immunity. Otherwise, take a look at Harry Truman. He wouldn't have done, if you think Hiroshima, not exactly a nice act, but it did end the Second World War, probably, right? Nagasaki, he wouldn't be doing that. He said, I don't want to do that because my opponents will indict me. You have to give a president full and total immunity. And, you know, I liken it to a little bit, police. You have to give them back their authority and their power because our country is crime-ridden. And when you do that, you're going to have a rogue cop. You're going to have a bad apple somewhere along the line. Very, very few, surprisingly few, but you're going to have some. And what they're doing is they're trying to protect so much against that crime is rampant all over the place. And, you know, the police are incredible, and the firemen and everyone else, but they're incredible. These are incredible people, and they want to do their job, and they're not allowed to do it. Just like the Border Patrol wants to do their job. They're not allowed. They're under orders. You'll lose your house. You'll lose everything you have. You'll lose your family, your wife, family, husband, family. You're going to lose everything if you do it, if you act. When they see people walking out of the stores carrying televisions, don't do it, don't touch them, don't do anything. We have to go back to being a country of law and order. Have to do it. And you will have, very seldom, but you will have the rogue, we call it the rogue cop, the bad apple, and perhaps you'll have that also with president. But there's nothing you can do about that. You're going to have to give the president, you're going to have to allow a president, any president, to have immunity so that that president can act and do what he feels and what his group of advisors feel is the absolute right thing. Otherwise, you're going to have presidents that are totally impotent, and we've had enough of them already. We've had enough of them already. So having immunity is so important, and I hope the Supreme Court has the courage to do that, because otherwise you're just not going to be in a very strong position very long. It'll totally change our country, in my opinion. That's how bad it would be. Upon taking office, I will terminate every open border policy that Biden and the Biden administration put on and begin the largest deportation operation in American history. To stop the deadly drugs that are poisoning and pouring into our country, poisoning our people, I will deploy the U.S. Navy. We are going to oppose, and we had this, you know, we were at a 38-year low for drugs coming in too, not just people coming in for drugs. And now we're 9 times more. Drugs are just pouring in. We fought that hard. We spent millions of dollars on equipment that could detect. You know what the best detection, though, is? A certain type of German Shepherd. You can spend millions of dollars on drug-detecting equipment, and it's not as good as a great certain type of German Shepherd. Like, they're flawless. Can you imagine dogs? We all love dogs, right? It's a great thing. But the Navy's going to impose a full fentanyl blockade on the waters of our region because it comes from every different way. And I had a deal with President Xi of China. And when the election turned out the way it turned out, we got more votes than any sitting president in history, and we lost by a whisker. Bullshit, okay? Bullshit. You know, we got more votes. We got more votes, Henry, than any president in the history of our country. Any president, and bad things happen. But President Xi and I had an agreement. He was going to give the maximum penalty to anybody making fentanyl in China and sending it over here. That means the death penalty, because they have the death penalty. That's why they don't have any drug problem. In China, they have the death penalty, Singapore, other places. Where you have the death penalty, you have no drug problem. It's a very simple thing. So I don't know that our country is ready for it, but each drug dealer kills on average 500 people during his or her lifetime. And I know what it is because I have so many friends. And even if you lose somebody without that, just lose somebody. We had it this last week. I lost my mother-in-law, and she passed away, peacefully passed away. It's a very hard thing to take. But think of what happens when you lose a child or anybody to fentanyl. It's a horrible thing. And we had it just about set. And when that was going to go into existence, and then when these guys came, they didn't care about that. They didn't know about it. They didn't want to bother with it. That would have been one of the most important things that we did. I'll get it done again. President Xi will do it again. I guarantee you that. The drug cartels are waging war on America, and we will destroy those cartels. We have to destroy. You know, it's war. I believe we're losing 300,000. Not, you know, they say 91,000. That's not 91,000. 300,000 people a year I've lost to drugs pouring into our country. That's worse than a war, okay? That's worse than a war. So we have a war going on. And I will use Title 42, which I had. In fact, the judge in that case was fantastic. He said they wanted to terminate it early. The judge wouldn't let him do it. He said, no, wait a minute. Do you know what's going to happen to our country if we do that? Title 42. And he said, no, but it expires. You can wait. But if you don't extend it, it would be terrible. But I'm not going to give you the right to terminate it. He was fantastic, actually. He understood. But Title 42 to end the child trafficking crisis by returning all trafficked children to their families and their home countries immediately. Nikki Haley will never secure the border or stop the fentanyl that is killing thousands and thousands of New Hampshire citizens. You know, I took tours with your police force and your fire force. And a big part of what they do in New Hampshire, I don't know what it is with New Hampshire, but you probably have per capita the worst drug situation in the entire country. Why don't you try getting a new governor? That would help, okay? But you have the worst, I believe it's the worst per capita. I believe it's the worst, and it's not even close. But I went around with the firemen, the job they do, the policemen, the job of keeping people alive. But sometimes I'll have to do it 4 or 5 times with the same person, and oftentimes that person doesn't make it eventually. Nikki Haley opposed my border wall very strongly. She condemned my strong border policies, and they really work. They really work. When I put in policies, I didn't want people coming in from countries that hate us, that want to blow up our shopping centers and kill our people. And so we didn't let them come in, and we had a, you know, I wanted to talk about it so badly during that 4-year period. 2.5, 3 years went up. I said, I want to talk, but I don't want to mention it because if I mention it the next day, they'll have a problem and they'll say, see, but we went, now I can talk about it with great pride. We went 4 years without any terrorist problem because we kept them out. We kept them out. And remember, Iran was broke under the Trump administration. Iran was broke. I said to China, if you buy 1 barrel of oil from Iran, you're not going to do any business in the U.S., and we're going to put 100% tariff on everything you have. They said, like we said, we're not going to buy any oil. But I did that with many countries, and they were absolutely broke. If you remember back, you go back 3.5 years ago, you will see that there were reports, actually, even from the fake news, that Hamas, Hezbollah, they didn't have any money because Iran had no money to give them. They wanted to survive. And I didn't want to be bad terrorist. I just didn't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. I said, you know, we're going to make a great deal. Everybody's going to be happy. You're going to be rich as hell again. Everything's going to be great. But you cannot have a nuclear weapon. Now they're 31 days away from having a nuclear weapon. These numbskulls have done nothing. It would have been such an easy deal. They wanted to make a deal. And then because of the results of the election, they said, let's wait it out. Nobody ever contacted them. They're going to have a nuclear weapon in 31 days, the likes of which, the power of nuclear weaponry is not describable. Actually, it's not describable. And that's where we are right now. This country has regressed to a point that it's so embarrassing to even talk about when you look at what's happened. Just 3 years, a little more than 3 years, what's happened to our country is so sad to see. Nikki stabbed the Republican Party in the back by siding with Barack Hussein Obama against the Trump travel ban, which kept us safe. That travel ban was a gift from God. It kept us safe as a country. We didn't have the problems that other countries had. Biden and his thugs are desperate to stop us because they know that we are the only ones who can stop them. We're the only ones that can stop them. You know, this is the greatest movement in the history of the United States. There's never been a movement like this. Never been a movement like this. Never. In an interview yesterday, very sad interview actually, Attorney General Merrick Garland, head of crooked Joe Biden's Department of Injustice, actually stated that he wanted to speed up the so-called election integrity witch hunt against President Trump. And I say, if he wanted to do that, why didn't they file the lawsuit 3 years earlier? Because they wanted to have it right smack in the middle of the election. You know what it comes to? They want to start the trial. I think it's going to be delayed very substantially because of all the things you see happening, including what's happening in Georgia with the horrible case of Fannie Willis. It's actually pronounced Fannie. It's F-A-N-I, but you pronounce it Fannie, a little French accent there. Fannie. But that's a terrible thing. But so Merrick Garland, I didn't think he'd be like this because I understood it, you know, looked at him. To me, he was a very respected judge, very respected for a long time. I never thought this would happen with him. He was liberal, but he was a respected guy, and I never thought this would happen, but he wants to speed it up. But I say they want to speed it up. They could have started it 3 years ago. 3 years ago. This would have been over 2 years. And now they want to speed it up. You know why they want to speed it up? Because I'm leading in the election. This is election interference at a level that nobody has ever seen before. It's because they know that I did nothing wrong and they want to get going. And it's, by the way, what the hell ever happened to the Biden boxes deal? What's with Biden boxes? Where did that ever go? They kept saying Trump, they raided Mar-a-Lago. Remember, they raided my home. How would you like to have your home raided? Nice home. They raided my home. Whatever happened? Remember, he kept classified documents under the wheels of his Corvette. He loves that Corvette. In an open garage with no security. Whatever happened? Let's check that. Whatever happened to the Biden boxes? He had massive numbers. He was taking stuff when he was a senator, which that you're not allowed to do. I was protected by the Presidential Records Act, by the way. But whatever happened to that boxes deal with Joe Biden? And why isn't Garland going after the ones who rigged the 2020 election? Why is he always going after the ones who are complaining about the rigging? They only go after the ones complaining. Now we have to have honest elections in all these cases. Biden and Garland were weaponizing law enforcement for really high-level election interference. That's what they're doing now. He's got nothing he can run on. He always says, Donald Trump is a threat. He's a threat to democracy. That's right. That's right. MAGA. We've got to stop MAGA. What does MAGA mean, Joe? Make America great again. We got to stop Make America Great. Think of it. We got to stop Make America Great Again. But I don't do too much imitation of him because every time I do it, every single time, they have it on television, like fake NBC, fake CBS, fake ABC, not to mention CNN, MSDNC, and Fox. But every time I do it, if I imitate him, they show me Donald Trump spoke poorly last night. He could hardly say a word. So it's very dangerous. You know, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I hardly do it. Maybe I'll do New Hampshire. I'm desperate to get your vote. I'm desperate to get your vote. Maybe I'll do it. But I don't do it because what they do is the sarcastic, or like a lot of times I'll say, and President Obama is doing a lousy job, meaning that Obama's running the show. They'll say, Donald Trump doesn't know who our president is. No. Because cognitively, you know, I don't know if you saw, but a few months ago, I took a cognitive test. My doctor gave me. I said, give me a cognitive test just so we can, you know, because you know what the standards were. And I aced it. I also took one when I was in But I also took one when I was in the White House. No, I'll let you know when I go bad. I really think I'll be able to tell you, because someday we go bad. But you know, I've had, and they always say, like she talks about, yeah, we don't need 80-year-old. Well, I don't mind being 80, but I'm 77. That's a big difference. Big difference. But I have one friend who became a very rich man, became a billionaire. His whole life he didn't do well. He was in a certain business, didn't do well. He turned 80. He made $1 billion between the age of 80 and 90. He made all his money from 80 to 90. They always like to mention age. It's not age. Different people, different strokes, right? But what it is, think of that. Made all of his money. I know people that are 90. I know one person, 94 years old, a phenomenal. His mind is as sharp as it's ever been. I feel my mind is stronger now than it was 25 years ago. Is that possible? I really do. Now, Biden can't say that. Look, you know he can't say that. You know he can't say that. You know there's something going on. But when I imitated, so a few weeks ago, I imitated, because as you know, he can never find the stairs. You know how many stairs? 1, 2. We have 2 on the side. 3, 4. There's one back here, and then there's an emergency. So you got like 6 or 7. This is not a big platform. So I imitated it, and everybody had a great time. You know the way he finishes the speech? The speeches usually last about 2 minutes, yeah? Sure. Thank you. 2 or 3 minutes. They're not long. This is not Winston Churchill. He used to speak for never have so few, done so much for so many. You know what that was about the Spitfire? He was a slightly good speaker. But this isn't Winston Churchill. But they last very, very short periods of time because the energy runs low. You know, it's got something going on there. The key with him is to get him going for a long period of time. Let's see how it looks. But when he leaves, do you ever notice he always points? He goes, thank you. He always goes, like the Heisman Trophy. And then, but he leaves, and so they had a wall. We'll pretend that's a wall back there, but they had a wall. I don't think there's a stair in the back, so he would find that area and said it. But you know what? So there's a wall. And I imitated him going to the wall. And everybody cracked up. We were all having a good time. And the fake news said Donald Trump was embarrassed tonight. He couldn't find his way off the stage. Can you believe? No. They are the most dishonest people. You know the thing where we talked about a dictator. Donald Trump wants to be a dictator. So Sean Hannity, who's a fantastic guy, by the way. Sean Hannity, I did a town hall with him 2 weeks ago. And he said, all right, let's put this to rest. He thought he was doing me a favor. And I want to be cute. I always got to be cute. He said, listen, you don't want to be a dictator or anything, do you? I said, Sean, I only want to be a dictator for one day. And I'm going to be a dictator, Sean, for one day. And I'm going to close up the border, and I'm going to drill, baby drill, and after that, I'm not going to become a dictator. Right? So here's what the fake news does. It's so horrible. So I said, I want to be a dictator for one day, and then if you go on just like 10 seconds, it says the 2 things, right? We're going to have a great border. We're going to drill, baby drill, those 2 things. We're going to have energy. We're going to make so much money. We're not going to have to worry about your Social Security. So I said those 2 things. I said, I'm going to be a dictator, and they cut it. So all over television said, Donald Trump wants to be a dictator. Listen to it. I'm going to be a dictator, cut. Now that's really, and it said for one day, and I did also finish it and said, and then after that, I'm not going to be a dictator ever again. So we were having fun, and they've got me saying I want to be a dictator. These are sick people, I'm telling you. We have to straighten out our free press. But Joe Biden is a threat to democracy for a number of reasons. Take a look at what he's doing with weaponization. What he's doing with the weaponization that we just discussed is terrible. But he's a threat for another reason, very big. He's grossly incompetent. That's the biggest threat that we have to democracy. We're going to end up in World War III with this guy running things. And you know, it's interesting. Until I got indicted, I talk this way about him. You probably know. Until I got, who is this, Azir friend? You can get him out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here. Go ahead, you can throw him out. Well, now we know that politics is getting serious. So now we know we're getting serious. Now, he's just a disturbed person. Remember that used to happen all the time? People used to call for it. Where is that? We want it back. But now probably we're really now into political season, and that is happening. It's happening. And the people in this room know what, and he probably knows too. And a lot of those guys, by the way, are paid by Soros and these people. You know that. They're troublemakers. A lot of those people are paid. They go outside. In fact, they're MAGA people, but they can't help it. They say, look, you gave me, I said, do what you're doing. This is only happening, all of this, because all of the weaponization, because we're leading so much in the polls, especially if you look, we're leading her by a lot. Ron is probably finished. He's probably finished, sad. May he rest in peace. In the new Redfield-Wilton poll, just came out a little while ago, it's Trump 72%, Haley 9%, and DeSanctimonious 9%. But that's why you have to get out and vote, though. We have to keep those margins. In Nevada, we're going to be there next week. You know what we're going to get in Nevada? 100% of the vote. 100. You know why? They looked at the polls and they decided we're not going to play there. So next week is Nevada, a great state, and DeSanctimonious just announced he's pulling out of Nevada. In South Carolina, you just saw all of the leaders, just about everybody. We have almost everybody. Respected pollster, very respected guy, Tony Fabrizio. Have you ever heard of him? He's Italian by persuasion, I think. But you know, he's a great pollster. John McLaughlin, great pollster. He has some great pollsters. Tony Fabrizio has it here, 64. Think of it. Trump at 64%, Haley at 25%, Ron DeSantis. What the